If you're feeling like we're living through late stage capitalism right now, things are kind of off. We're in some kind of technological empire that's in decline. You got most of it right. You're almost there, but I'm not seeing a lot of theories, a lot of people talking about exactly why that is, how we got there, or coming up with a unifying theory of what the outcome of this situation looks like as we move through the stages. That's why I came up with the Technological Decadence Thesis. I'm going to walk you through the fine points of that thesis today, and it's going to serve as a roadmap for every other YouTube video I'm going to create in the future. Everything I've made so far seems to outline this thesis, but it was only when I had some time to myself in the woods up in the beautiful mountains of northern Arizona this past weekend that I was able to put everything together and actually write this thesis down. So let's step through the different stages. There's 5 stages to it: takeover, hyper-quantify, replace, save face, and decline. I believe that we're currently in stage 3 going on stage 4 with the decline looming if we don't alter course. Before we get into takeover, I always like to give you a single thread that you can keep going back to. If you feel a little out at sea while I'm talking about one of these, reach back to that line. It'll always be there while you're floating out in the ocean, so you'll never be untethered. And before you know it, we'll be back to talking about something that clearly links to that line again. And that central line is that Western tech is decaying because competence has become decoupled from what makes a good leader. Non-technical elites now wield AI, credentials that don't actually matter, spreadsheets, and algorithms to replace the builders that they can't understand, simulating progress, all the while these institutions are rotting from the inside. I saw this happen firsthand at American Express. I've seen it happen at a number of other companies. And since I posted that original video on my MX tell-all about the decay happening in that American company, countless people have sent LinkedIn messages, emails, DMs on X telling me how the exact same thing is happening at their company. So I'm very excited to report on this. But before you can run something into the ground, you have to take it over. The takeover stage has been happening since the 80s. It has ramped up recently, and it looks a little bit different depending on where in that time continuum you're talking about. So let's start in the 80s and 90s. All of a sudden, in the 80s and 90s, the power started to shift in American corporations. And the leader of the company needed not necessarily to be someone who climbed the ladder in the time-honored tradition all the way up to the top office, a former builder that had turned executive. Now the credential set was entirely different. Gradually at first, and then all at once, you have this class of resource managers emerge who are completely unfamiliar with the process of building for the people that they manage. And this happens at the micro level on teams, but it also happens at the macro level at the organization as well. And before you accuse me of being totally Marxist, I do believe there is a need for resource managers. I've been one myself. I've had good managers. I've had bad managers. And the force multiplier that a good manager can provide is greater than the sum total of all of the parts. So I do believe that resource managers are necessary. And that's not what I'm talking about here as somebody who was a builder and then became a manager and still keeps sort of a finger in that world. Okay, this is how you build things. I am talking about somebody completely from the outside of the craft that they are working in. So for software engineering, it would be somebody that has never written a line of code, which is rife in our industry right now in terms of resource leaders. And this pattern really starts to normalize in the 80s and 90s with the uptick in popularity of the MBA, the Masters of Business Administration. If you're unfamiliar, an MBA is basically a fake credential. It's not really a fake credential. It's basically proof that you have some amount of wealth if you have an MBA, especially from a good program. So you go and get an MBA. It's a 2-year degree, and you have to do it full time most of the time. Sometimes there's executive programs, but most people will take 2 years off of work to do an MBA. So you need to float yourself with 2 years of salary, 2 years of missed wages. On top of that, you need to pay what is typically an exorbitant amount of money as tuition for those 2 years to get the degree. And what does the degree teach you? pretty much nothing that you wouldn't have learned better from starting your own company, whether that company succeeds or fails, or even working at higher executive levels in an existing company. It teaches a derivation of those, a clean room approach, a case study approach to the business techniques that you're going to be working with. It doesn't really teach you anything. It's basically a signal. It's signaling some amount of wealth is what an MBA is. But what that MBA grants, when you all of a sudden are installed as a director of this or a head of this or the CEO of that, is it is defensibility when people inevitably question your credibility. You will have builders when this lofty MBA type comes into a company to replace the former CEO who has been ousted by the board. This new MBA guy comes in, and the first thing the builders are going to ask is, what qualifies you to lead this company? Why didn't you promote the VP of such and such that has been climbing the ladder for the last 10 years? Well, the simple answer to that is that this new CEO has an MBA, and you should shut up and stop asking questions. The entire purpose of the MBA is twofold. It is to provide a defensible credential when those uncomfortable questions arise, and it is to provide networking. The degree provides networking. You are surrounded when you're doing the MBA by a cohort of other wealthy individuals. So it's keeping the circle close who can afford to take 2 years off of work and pay for 2 years of very expensive tuition. It lets you network with other people who are either going to have an MBA or already have an MBA, which solves the second half of our question, which is, how does this person get installed? Because of somebody they went to school with, an alumnus from the school. It's an internal favoritism system that keeps a few people at the top who can afford to take 2 years off of work and afford to do an MBA, which again is a degree that does not teach anything. But as I said, over this time continuum, things do change. Things do change. And in this age of social media, the MBA starts to lose its eminence to image. Image is now the most important qualifier of what qualifies somebody to lead a company or lead a bunch of builders, people who actually know how to build the thing that the company is selling. And what is image? It's highly individualized, and it's hyper-local to the time period that it's being used in. But a couple of signals that you could look out for now, President of the United States, right? Donald Trump has never held political office, has no political experience, but was elected president not once, 2 times, but he has no credentials as a politician. He has credentials as a dubiously successful or unsuccessful businessman, depending on who you ask, and a TV reality show celebrity. And now he holds the highest political office in the land, despite having never worked in politics, which is not a political statement at all. I mean, those are facts. Those are publicly available facts. I don't think that's an intentional, uncharitable read of the situation or anything like that. Another example, and this is the big one. You have the biggest news outlet in Silicon Valley right now, the one that all of the VCs salivate over. You have tech celebrities going on this every other day. People call it the sports center of the tech world, which is an apt metaphor because it lets brainlets understand what's going on in the tech world who have no idea how to build software or how a tech company works. It's led by 2 individuals. It's hosted by 2 individuals, this show, on every day. They have some of the biggest names in tech on. They had Alex Karp on last week. They have Mark Andreessen on all the time. And these 2 guys, the 2 hosts, neither of them have ever been a software engineer. One of them founded Soylent, the meal replacement drink company. Finally, you have Professor Jiang, who I have a tell-all video coming on. He's not a professor. He doesn't have a graduate degree, not even a little bit of a master's degree. He has never taught at a university. In fact, he is a high school teacher, and he is called Professor Jiang and has total authority based on his predictions that he's made that are quite milquetoast, middle-of-the-road predictions. So credentials have gone out the window, and now there is signaling. So signaling might look like, for your image, spray tan. In the tech world, it looks like Vuori clothing because you have to have a little bit of wealth to buy Vuori clothing. It signals, hey, I have some money and you are still wearing Lululemon. It's also rags to riches narratives when that ascent is unearned. We see that all across the industry, people talking about how they came from humble origins. And then you dig a little bit deeper and wow, they really had help or an unfair leg up or an unfair advantage from somebody. Didn't see that coming. And they really downplay it in their personal story. So that's pretty common as well. You also have celebrity peer endorsements, right? I mean, if Kylie Jenner endorses me, endorses my ability to diagnose and treat let's say skin diseases or something, all of a sudden I'm the skin disease guy. I got a reality TV show with my name on it. You know, I'm getting media and brand deals out the wazoo. It doesn't matter that I have no background in that because Kylie Jenner endorsed me. The only game in town for image now. This is why you don't even need an MBA. Originally you did, but now people are dumber. By and large, you need to fool the median IQ populace that you are qualified enough. I mean, Elon Musk, who I have a very long video on detailing his background, as well as Sam Altman. I mean, the word genius is tossed around all the time for these people, but they are not near geniuses of the past. Sam Altman has never had a real job. And Elon Musk had an insane leg up from his father's mines in South Africa. So neither of these people are what they seem, but it doesn't matter because the narrative is stronger and it's fooled the general populace of people. So that is takeover. Takeover is the replacement of technically competent individuals by hucksters, charlatans, show business people, anybody who is good at curating and portraying an image to the median IQ general population. This is takeover, and this has been happening for a long time, but we're seeing it ramp up in the tech industry, which I cannot vibe with because we are headed for collapse very soon if we keep going down this road, as we will see between stage 4 and 5. Stage 2 is to hyper-quantify. If you are an MBA coming in to lead a software engineering team, you've never written a for loop in your life. You think that Java and JavaScript are the same language, but nevertheless, your remit is a large organization of 100 people across 4 teams. I've seen this happen multiple times. If you think this is wacky, I have seen this happen. Somebody installed as the head of or the director of, and they have no software experience, despite the fact that they're managing not a software team, but a software organization or department. This happens all the time in the tech industry. So imagine you are this MBA, you wake up in the morning, you put on your Vuori clothing, you put an insane amount of hair gel in, you put some Versace Eros on, enough to maybe be called a war crime in certain jurisdictions, and you go into the office looking, important, looking like all those people on TBPN, looking like the toast of the VC crowd. And you show up, and the engineers start asking you, how do we build this? What should we do? You're like, well, crap. I actually don't know anything about what they're building. I'm not interested in learning because they're the dirty technicians. I don't even want to really be around them that much. What am I to do? And you think back because you got an MBA. Remember, you got an MBA and you didn't really learn any valuable skills there, but you did use a lot of Excel spreadsheets. And everybody knows that if you're working in an Excel spreadsheet, that means you are doing business. And doing business is what you were hired to do. You're a business person. So you crunch some numbers, you run Monte Carlo simulations, and you see if it fits the models, and you hyper-quantify everything. And again, all of this, a bunch of personal experience in the industry. I have been at startups, large and small. I've been at large publicly traded companies, a couple household names now, a few if you count the third. And I have seen this happen, not across all of them, but I've seen it happen consistently enough that I am very secure in claiming this. And everything starts to become hyper quantified. If it is not represented as a number in an Excel spreadsheet, it does not exist. I will tell you the extent of this lunacy. When I was at American Express, they would do their software engineering planning for the entire year down to the week. So you would spend months in stinky conference rooms with people that have been in there for 10, 12, 13 hours, churning through Excel spreadsheets, the same Excel spreadsheet over and over again until your dumb boss gives you another one that's completely unrelated, but you have to copy paste all the information in, and you have to go through all of that, and you have to quantify all of the work that all of your engineers in your department will do for the next year. ladies and gentlemen. Impossible. It's difficult enough to spec out what an engineering team is going to do over the next 2 weeks. There's so many unknowns in software engineering, yes, even with AI. And they would plan out the entire year in one of these sessions. Absolutely mad thing to do, fool's errand. They would spend tons of time on it. There's hours of my life I will never get back for doing that fruitless exercise. And then, of course, the year would arrive and nothing would be on schedule. Everything's off. You don't get to half of the work as to be expected. Deadlines shift, legal requirement for that shifts. So it's an entirely foolish thing to do. But it lives in a spreadsheet. And the people at the top who do not know how to do software engineering, they have to look important. By looking important, I mean these things need to be in an Excel spreadsheet, because if you're working on an Excel spreadsheet, you are doing business. And doing business is what you were hired to do, not get down in the weeds with the technical people below you. Oh, gross. Like we don't want to talk to them. Keep them away from us, the managerial class, right? No, you want to stay in the Excel spreadsheet. So you quantify everything down to a number in that Excel spreadsheet. And if you're thinking, but Dr. J, what about the voice of reason? What about their investors? What about the board? What about venture capitalists that they're trying to woo? Guess what? All of them have MBAs too. So the lingua franca between them is the Excel spreadsheet. The Excel spreadsheet looks good. It is defensible. It's color-coded and organized by tab. It's unquestionable. Then the builders become inconvenient. So you replace them, but not how you think. For stage 3, replacement, the tech sales bros show up to the office. They come in cheap polyester Zara suits. They are also wearing the Versace Eros, maybe 1 to 2 to 3 bottles worth at a time. They have Folex watches from China that they claim are real Rolexes. And they use enough oil in their hair that if the American government found out about it, they might stage a freedom operation on their bathroom. And they go in, they toss 2, 3, 10 Zinn pouches in. They go into a beige conference room with the enterprise executives, the decision makers at the large Fortune 500 company. And they sit down, they have a conference together. Nobody in the room has written a for loop, but everybody has an MBA. And there's a couple of looks maxers who have maxed out their image, their physical attributes also sitting in the room that have a big social media following. And the tech sales dude proposes an AI solution. They say, this is AI. AI can plug into your system. And those stinky technicians that you don't like, you don't want to be around? AI can replace all of them, actually. Let me show you a pre-canned demo. He shows him the demo. The demo has nothing to do with the real day-to-day work, but everyone in the room is too dumb to understand that because they only have MBAs and they don't have any real-world experience building things. And so the execs say, like, hey, this is great. Those builders are really inconvenient. That meant that I could only take another $10 million on my bonus this year. If we would have laid off half, I could have doubled my bonus. And I really need a second yacht. And these people are just ungrateful and they won't work very hard. So yes, I would like some AI to replace the maximum amount of my workforce. So they pay $2 million for the AI solution. But then there's a problem. Everything is in an Excel spreadsheet, as we mentioned in stage 2. And these guys aren't novices at Excel, okay? They might not be able to write a for loop, but they can really crush a numpad in Excel. And they have a sum operation in one of the columns. And that sum operation takes all the numbers. It takes all the numbers, some math is done on them, and then a few things are tossed in this sum. And the sum is their profit line. It is what they are making versus what they are spending. And their biggest expense are these sweaty, stinky engineers that they have to employ because they don't know how to build anything. They need this underclass of people to build it for them. But now they have AI. And so they bought $2 million worth of AI, plus all of the salaries of the tech workers that are working there. And you add those up and it's bad. The number is bad. The number is red. And the number needs to be black by the quarterly earnings call, or else the executives are screwed. They're out of a job. So what they do is they start doing layoffs, and layoffs are, they're bad. They're bad publicity. Nobody wants to do a layoff right now. I mean, if you do a layoff, the Dr. J show is going to cover you, and you're going to have negative publicity. So you're going to do a couple of things. You're going to do return to office, which is it's a layoff. Return to office is a layoff. It's a way of laying people off without having to do a layoff. It feels so good to say that publicly. Because corporations will never say that. But if you're doing RTO after you've done work from home for a period of time, that's a layoff. That's what that is. I hope that's helpful for you. But they don't have to call it a layoff. They can call it return to office, and then Jamie Dimon can say people are lazy because they only call into work and they don't sit here in the office with me. So you get to badger your employees into leaving and then feeling bad and them feeling like it's their fault that they quit because they didn't want to move to a crime-ridden city that is overpopulated and surrounded by people and smog and bad air. They wanted to live in the suburbs or in a rural area closer to nature. And they see themselves out of the company and they feel bad about it and they feel like it's their fault when really it's a layoff. That's what RTO is a layoff. Again, I hope that's helpful for you. So they do the RTO. And it's, they can't go whole hog on it. You can't just go from, hey, you work from home to it's 5 days a week in office. Come on, it's only 3 days a week. It's hybrid. You get 2 remote days. That's your privilege. Take it or leave it, okay? It's only 3 days. How lazy are you? Oh, I'm sorry. You want to see your kid at lunch? I'm going to realize you weren't serious about doing business like the rest of us. So they do RTO. They do the 3-day hybrid. And then they say, the number is still red. It's still red and the number needs to be black, or, it's going to be so bad at the quarterly earnings. So then they do 5-day return to office. And it's like, you got to be in here. And not only 5-day return to office, they were doing this at Amex too. The higher ups don't want you to know this, but they didn't tell any of the underlings this. This is an exclusive as far as I know. Your badge, when you scan into the office and scan out, that's all logged. And then that report is given to your manager so they can see how long were you there? When did you clock in? When did you clock out? Somehow, as if we're working in the factory environment. And if I work 10 hours, that means it's 2 hours more productive than 8 hours, which doesn't make any sense for knowledge work. But regardless, they do a 5-day RTO. They start tracking this stuff. And if you are a minute under 40 hours a week in the office, you're going to be having a chat with your boss because the metrics are off. And because everything is hyper-quantified, everything is a number, 39.99999 hours in the office you're not honoring your contract. You're lazy and you're going to go on a performance improvement plan because you need to be here at least 40 hours. 40 hours is actually the minimum amount of time you need to be in the office. It's not a time expectation for the maximum amount of time. That's the minimum time you need to be sitting in this miserable fluorescent lighting office that's no fun, that's beige, that smells bad. People are microwaving their meals right in the next room. You never have your own private bathroom. You need to be in here at least 40 hours a week. If you're not, are you even serious about this job? You might as well quit. And we would really like if you quit because then we don't need to do a layoff, which is bad publicity for us. But they still need to fire people. So that's when they start to game the performance review cycle. The ratings all of a sudden are harder to get. The bonuses are smaller and the raises are minimal at best. They gotcha by the short hairs and they squeeze out a few other people who find other jobs and move to greener pastures. And maybe at that point, the number has turned from red to black. If not, they'll just do a real layoff. At which point the company's reputation is getting pretty bad, right? You've been really forcing people into the office. There's a lot of negative chatter. People are using anonymous websites like Blind to talk about this and tell other people, hey, don't come to Oracle right now. Don't come to Meta right now. It's a very toxic situation. It's not a good look for your image for the company. It doesn't come up on the quarterly earnings, but you're going to have to address it because your board's going to find out about it. So that's when you enter stage 4, save face. Suddenly, everything is on fire. You paid $2 million for this AI. You were able to lay off in one way or another, 50% of your software engineers, and oh man, there's bugs and there's outages in production all the time. Everything is going down. And it's not that nobody knows how to fix it. It's just that these darn engineers can't use AI and they're too lazy to debug this stuff. They're too lazy to troubleshoot this stuff. And wouldn't you just listen to Mike Rowe that you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just work harder? You just got to work harder. And that's the reason we have so many outages. And you're at risk because you got customers pulling out. Your service isn't good anymore. It's not reliable. It's out in the media. There's outage reports. People are talking about you on X. It's not good. I mean, your bottom line is it's in the black, but for how long? Until it dips into the red when you have customers pull out. It's not good. And remember, if anything is important, it's keeping that bottom line in the black, not in the red. So you look at your Excel spreadsheet, you get together with a couple of your other MBA buddies, and you look the ones that got you the job because of favoritism, not credentials. And you sit down and you look at the spreadsheet and you say, man, our spend is real high. We got this AI tool, which we have to use because we're at the forefront of innovation, like every other Fortune 500 company. So we got to use this tool. We got to use the AI. And then we have these lazy American engineers who will only work 40 hours a week. They won't work 80 hours a week because they're lazy. And never mind the fact that they earn a tenth of what I do for working 20 hours a week. And you look at the available funds and you say, man, we can't hire back a fraction of the people we laid off. What are we going to do? We need to hire some real people. The AI isn't working out like the guy sold it to us. I wish somebody would have told us that, but I know tech, so I was qualified to make that decision. So we got to get some more human beings in here, but we can't hire the people we let go. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Well, hey, we could import people that would be happy to come to the country, despite the fact that tech employment is at a near all-time high. College CS grads can't get a job their first year out of college. Let's import people from other countries that would be happy to work for a fraction of the price these Americans would. They'll come to the country and then we have full control over them. I mean, actually, if I'm coming to think of it, and in my MBA program, I remember there was a case study about this company. What was it? There's a case study about American Express. And what they did is they did this exact same thing. They caved out their American operation. They brought in a bunch of folks from other countries on H-1B visas. And it was really cool for them because basically if the H-1B said, hey, I'm not going to work a weekend, they'd say, oh, really? Do you want to get fired and go back to the country you came from? And then they work the weekend. So we can get 80 hours out of these people and they have no worker protections. They can't do anything. These poor people are just trying to make a better life for themselves. And we can totally exploit that for maximum doing business gains. So we'll start off by doing that. And that helps a little bit, but it's still not enough. So in an ayahuasca trip over the weekend that I was having with my Stanford GSB alumni friends in the desert, I had a spirit vision. And that spirit vision said, you must open a new campus in Bangalore, India. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break ground. We're enhancing innovation by creating a campus in Bangalore, India. We can get a bunch of software engineers over there who will work for way, way, way cheaper than having to sponsor an H-1B visa. Trump was a buzzkill. He put $100K fee on that visa. So now we don't even need to worry about that. We can just build this new office in Bangalore, India, and we can hire folks from the local community at a much lower cost than their American counterparts. And we can actually get more people than we had American engineers. We can get about 3 to 4 engineers in India for the price of what it would take to hire one software engineer in the United States. So we'll do that. The board is going to love it. We're saved. This is where we are now. This is where we are now, perched on a knife's edge with the foremost and leading institutions in American business, in tech, waiting for the next stage. They have replaced the workers with AI. They have done layoffs through every dishonest means possible. And they have now tried to save face with their board and with their shareholders by backfilling the roles that they errantly fired with lower cost employees. And what we're headed for next, and we're already bridging into, is stage 5, the decline. At this point, the tech that the company is building has largely become irrelevant, because very few people at the company, if any, know how it works, or what it even is, apart from business and sales buzzwords. At this point, all of the people that built the original system have either been laid off through one way or another, probably RTO, or have completely burned out because overnight, after the company spent $2 million on AI, they're expected to do 10 times the ordinary amount of work that they were expected to do the previous week, because AI somehow mysteriously doesn't double the output, it 10x's the output. Also, meetings are horrifically bad now because when scheduling with the new campus in Bangalore, India, there is a 12.5 or 13.5 time hour difference. So all employees across both locations are very unhappy. When meetings happen, it is very early for one party and very late for the other, or vice versa. Communication goes down the toilet. It's harder to schedule meetings. If you task a team in America from India or in India from America with a task, it will be a 24-hour loop before they can complete that task and get it back to you because of the time difference. And if the app that the company built was at all relevant to American culture, now most of the builders and decision makers have been offshored. They are people that have no idea what American culture is all about. They're not living here day in and day out. And they are making product decisions on the product that is for American users in America who are living in American culture. This isn't a value judgment. This is just an observation. I wouldn't know how to develop an app that's sticky and is interesting to people in Russia because I'm not Russian and I don't live there. And even if I visited, I don't think I'd know how to make it. I'd have to live there day in and day out to know what is culturally normal, what is culturally interesting, and what makes a good application. What are the mores, taboos, and values of the culture I'm living in? But all of a sudden, those product decisions have been offshored. As a result of that, it's death by 1,000 cuts. In addition to the outages, to the delays in shipping features, daily active users have fallen off a cliff. Nobody is using the app anymore because it doesn't feel relevant to the culture that it was developed and built in. Mostly, this doesn't matter, though, for the executives because they have cashed out after they announced the new headquarters in Bangalore. Right around when they started staffing it, there was a lot of hype before the outcomes of that became visible. They have taken their exorbitant pay package. Remember, the average CEO to worker pay ratio in the US now is about 300 to 1, which doesn't make any sense because that would mean that a CEO does 300 times the work of a median employee, which is impossible. CEOs at large Fortune 500 companies are celebrities, they're figureheads. So those guys have cashed out. And what are they up to now? Are they on a beach in Maui? No, far from it. They become venture capitalists. They don't know much about how to assess a company because they're not qualified. They've never built a company. They just came in to leash off an existing one. But that's okay because they will look for founders to invest in that have an MBA, preferably from the same school. This is the current situation we find ourselves in. We are on stage 4, bordering on stage 5, maybe 3, bordering on 4, depending on industry, but it is perilous. Things could really go either way at this point. And if leadership of especially these large Fortune 500 companies are allowed to remain in charge despite not knowing how things work, despite having never been a builder themselves, if we continue to have this class separation that prizes people with wealth for these leadership positions as opposed to people who are competent and qualified, we will continue to march down this trail and we will have American decline of tech. This is not controversial. This is already happening in some sectors. What do you think? I want to hear some reports from the field. Tell me what industry you're working in or have experience in, and tell me where you think your industry is in this thesis. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to receive more information on this, please sign up for my newsletter. A link is below in the description. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will continue to report on this through various different videos.